Hello, this video is to show you our cars, and this is going to be the longer teacher version. You'll hear me talking a lot, throwing out a bunch of coaching cues. Hopefully I get them right and not get flustered with my wording, but this is my first time making the video, and as I learn more, I will remake the video to bring more knowledge and more benefit. But we don't want to overcomplicate this. Really what we're asking is our bodies to expand and open up. So your job is to move comfortably, challenge yourself, but stay within your limits. Now, a car is to be done with your fullest range, your fullest pain-free range. So let's say you're taking your head this way and you feel a little pinch or pain. You ease out of that and you move around it. You don't feed into it more, okay? You do not feed into pain with a car. So let's get started. I have you starting at the top of the head and then we're gonna move down to the bottom. So place a couple of fingers on your chin and I want you to move your head forward, almost like you're really getting, like looking close at something. Don't allow your whole back to move, just your head. You're just trying to bring your eyes or your chin closer to, say, like a computer screen or something. Now I want you to draw your head back, almost like something disgusted you, like, ew. And then you're gonna look at it one more time, reach forward, and then pull back, ew. All right, now find neutral. So put your head back on straight. Now we're gonna try to tip our head up. So tipping our neck, tipping our head up to look at, let's say, a bird right over our head. Again, moving into your best range that is not painful. And then we're gonna look down. Like you're gonna look down at your shoes, but you're not gonna bring your shoulders or around your back to get there, okay? That's a no-no. Let's try that one more time. Tipping on the highest axes and then looking down. Tipping on that highest axis, looking down, lengthening, trying to send the vertebrae up towards the ceiling, okay? Great, that's just a little warm up before we actually start the neck car. Okay, so a neck car has you now looking down again, just like you were just doing, reaching, trying to draw that chin into your throat or down to your collarbone. Now we're going to scrape our chin across the collarbone. Welcome, dog. Hi, Charlie. Now we're going to look back, tipping your head and neck. You're gonna try to look at the back of that armpit. And now we're gonna lead with the chin. Now make sure your eyes are with you here, looking across the sky. You can imagine you're watching a beautiful eagle fly over you all the way to the other side. You're gonna land over here, tip back, now looking at the back of that armpit. And now you'll tip forward, looking at the front of that armpit, in which your chin should be pretty tucked in, and now you can scrape across that collarbone back to where you started from. Very good. I'm gonna do the other side now. I'm gonna face this way so you can get a little idea what it looks like from the front. Scrape. Tip, looking at the back of the armpit. Watch that bird fly across, all the way across. Boy, our heads are heavy. Now I'm looking back at this armpit. I'm gonna look at the front of the armpit and bring it back to the front. Good, that's a neck car. Now you can repeat that 2, 3, 7 more times if you want. You can also operate at a low intensity for a round. This would be like me operating at like 30% intensity. And this is me operating at 80%, maybe 90. Okay, this is pretty hard, maybe 100%. Okay, you see how I'm just reaching and I'm really asking more mobility out of my neck. And so just decide what percentage your nervous system and what your capabilities are for that moment, for that day. All right, sometimes we go through phases and periods of stress where your nervous system is not equipped to give you more, and you need to respect that and be nice to yourself and not try to push it past what it's able to give you, because if you do, you could end up in pain and injuries, pulling muscles, straining muscles. We don't have time for that. Okay, let's move on to now our thoracic car or spinal car. I've heard them called either. Now we're gonna set up with a very wide base. We're gonna have our legs wide and really pushing those feet into the ground to ground us so our hips don't try to take a ride with us. We do not want to be doing any of this, okay? This is locked down. All right, our hands are gonna go here, and we're gonna pretend like we are starting a neck car by looking all the way down. Now this time, we're not going to scrape the collarbone. We're gonna turn, we're gonna rotate to one side or the other. You get to pick. When you can no longer rotate, you're gonna dump out this shoulder. Now keep your chin down. Don't look with it, okay? So you keep chin tucked, dump the shoulder. I like to start a nice big inhale here. As I swoop across to the other side, where now I'm dumped out my other shoulder, and which I will then tip back up and then rotate back to where I started. Now I'm gonna go the other way facing this direction so you can see what's going on here. I'm not promising I don't have cheaters coming along with my hips. That's why it's so good to record yourself so you can really see, are you isolating that spinal rotation, or are your hips trying to do the job that your spine is not capable of? Very good. That felt good. These are getting better for me. So if you don't feel like you have this nice big expansion, don't worry, it will come over time. Your body will open up and you will get that really nice expansion of your spine. Okay, let's move on. We're gonna go into the scapula now. That's the shoulder blade bones. I like to set up with either bent arms, so 90-degree bend, or hug the porcupine. So when we're hugging a porcupine, we do not have locked out arms, and we don't squeeze very hard or we will get hurt. So we're gonna try to manipulate the shoulder blade. We're gonna round it to the front. We're gonna lift it up. We're gonna pinch it together in the back, and then we're gonna set it down and relax. It'll usually find a nice resting spot, which it kind of feels like it falls forward just a little bit. Now let's go in reverse. We're in a resting state now. We're going to pinch those shoulder blades together like you're trying to pinch a pencil between them. You're going to lift it up, round it to the front, set it down, relax. Okay, so you'll go one direction and then you'll reverse and go the other direction. The hands and the arms are really good here. So these are great guides if you are using pectoral muscles and you're now no longer connected to your scapula. You're way up here in the front trying to just contract muscles and stretch muscles, and that does still happen, but that's not your main controlled focus. All right, let's move on to shoulders. So we're gonna do both shoulders at the same time, and then we're gonna do each shoulder one at a time. So palms are open. We're going to push back. So this is me pushing back. That's what this looks like. Push back. Scoop some air. So now I have air in my hands. I've got my thumbs like a little detonator button, like this. Push back, scoop some air, close it up, and we're gonna keep lifting here. Now do your best to keep your rib cage right over your hips and not swaying back or moving forward. We're really kind of stiff here. You can even like sniff some air into your belly and just kind of hold that tension there while you breathe normally and do all of these. All right, here we go. We're going to lift. We're imagining someone has a hold of our arm and they're pulling it for us, okay? We're not rounding and we're not going forward with other body parts. We're reaching and we're searching for length. Now, I like to take a big inhale here because then my rib cage expands and I feel like my arms can really offer me some expansion here. Now we're looking like we're in like a cheerleader Y. You can go back further if you'd like, or you can start right here by dumping out your water bottle. And as you continue to dump, we're lowering the arms and we're continuing to find internal rotation of the shoulder so we can land with our palms out and our thumbs back. Now we're here, check your posture, check your stiffness, and we're gonna push those palms back. You can have your hands open or closed, you get to choose. We're gonna bring that water bottle back upright. If you'd like, take that nice big inhale here, help you with that expansion. Now we're back into that cheerleader Y. We're going to bring our, see what's happening here? We're gonna bring this forward. Remember when someone was pulling our arms, we're gonna ask them to pull our arms again, reaching forward. Now my palms are up. I like to say, kiss the pinkies if you can. Sometimes we're just too tight though, or you've got large chest muscles or breasts where you just can't, and that's okay. All right, now let's do one arm at a time. I like to hold, so if I'm doing this shoulder car, I like to hold that rib cage because that to me is a guide if my rib cage is trying to help me go somewhere with the shoulder. Okay, same thing, push back. You can imagine scooping the air, closing your hand, or you can keep your hand open. You get to choose. And we're gonna reach forward, looking and searching for length, but look, we're not going to rotate through the chest. We're simply moving, expanding just through this shoulder stuff, all this right here. Big inhale to lift. Careful not to let the rib cage go with you. Keep the rib cage here. Ask more from here. Now we're gonna dump out that water bottle. Here we go. Dump it and careful. See how I was? We wanna stay straight. Dump that water bottle, reaching, landing, and reverse. Lift, rotate, water bottle goes back upright. Now we start to bring the pinky to the front, palm comes up. Pinky can, if this was over here, you could kiss the other pinky all the way back down. Very good. Other side. Push back. Bring it up. Big inhale. And exhale, dump the water. Now these are controlled and articulated, so we shouldn't be going fast and sloppy. We're looking for as much rotation as possible. We're discovering tight areas. We're discovering impingements. We're being mindful. We're being nice to our bodies. We're not having any judgment. We're not being rude to ourselves. We are just observing. Okay, up next is elbow. I want you to imagine you got some oranges. You're gonna squeeze the oranges in your armpits and bring your hands right by your side and extend out as much as possible. Sometimes we have a lot of tightness and we actually can't lock out that joint, and that's okay. Or maybe we've had broken bones and it's just locked. We can't go past here, but you're gonna go to what you can with your hands open. With those oranges being squoze, you're going to imagine you have some grocery sacks right across the tip of your fingers, and you're gonna raise up those groceries, and then you're gonna rotate. And you're going to push down now on something. You can use your imagination, whatever you want to push on. Okay, so remember we started here, we went up, rotated and pushed down. Now we're gonna start here. Lift those bag of groceries. Imagine they're still across those fingertips. Lift them up, squeeze in your oranges. Rotate. Reverse grip, push down. You've seen this done in the gym, right? Right? And as you push down, you're imagining this tip of your elbow literally trying to pop through. Be mindful if you've had dislocations or if you've had injuries to the tendons and ligaments of this joint. You must operate at a lower percentage getting started, and you must communicate with your body and have lots of control there to know your limitations and your safety. Okay? Good. Okay, let's do the wrists. Now I like to have that same, like, squeeze the oranges, elbows bent, starting for the wrists. And I want you to imagine all this stuff right here, lengthening, going through the carpal tunnel, and then you extend back. Oh, that's pretty dang good for that right wrist today. Some days are better than others. All right, now we're here. You're gonna turn your pinkies in towards each other. And then you're going to lift those heavy groceries that are on your fingertips. And then you're gonna send your thumbs out. Ooh. And then we're gonna tip back and then put them back on where you started from, and then we can reverse. We're gonna go thumbs out, lift. We're really trying to isolate the wrist too. We're not trying to get the elbow involved or the shoulder involved. Pinkies now come in, we tip back, and we put it back on straight. Alternatively, you can do a wrist car here, tipping down, really reaching, thumb goes in. Now watch, see how my elbow gets involved? I don't know if you see that up there. You can't go as far inward when you're doing palms down wrist car. So be very mindful of that. Lift up, pinkies out, push down, put it back on straight. Okay, that's something to play with. And then if you wanted to, you can go through every finger. Fingers are supposed to rotate, right? You can even just do some of this stuff, but just connect your brain to these pieces. One of the biggest goals with cars is that we do not leave any real estate untouched, okay? This is all, every little fiber, every little piece of tissue in your body, every cell should have some sort of brain connection to it. And this is where you can accomplish a lot of that in a warm-up. Again, this is the long teacher version. Doing your cars before a warm-up should take about 7 to 10 minutes, depending on how many times you repeat, say the neck or a shoulder or something. But 7 to 10 minutes is it. Okay, we're going to the hips. Hips could be the most challenging. It's helpful to have a broomstick, or I don't have a full-size foam roller, but you can imagine if this was, I can actually have this here as just a prop for balance. Alternatively, you can use a wall. If you're at a gym, you can use a piece of equipment. Your goal is to be able to stand on one leg and balance while you move another hip. So just keep that in mind. Now, I'm going to teach you how I learned to use my own body as like a balancing stick. So I'm going to put out this arm. I'm going to keep it bent. I'm going to imagine I've just driven a pitchfork into the earth, and I'm going to hold that there. I've created some stiffness here. I'm going to shift my weight into the standing leg that's going to do a lot of balancing and stabilizing for me. Thank you, right hip. And I'm going to send this other leg, oh, let me go back just a little bit. I'm going to send this leg out in front of me, directly out in front of me. And then I'm going to squeeze this inner thigh stuff and reach across. Now, careful you don't drop at the hip or hike at the hip. We're looking for this all to stay very neutral. You have a socket, you have a femur bone with a ball on the end of it, and it goes into a socket right here. And this is what you are concentrating on. You are only concentrating on moving, swiveling that ball, like polishing that ball in its socket. Okay, we don't need all this other stuff on board. And that's what's great about recording yourself, is you'll be able to see when you're doing that. Okay, we're going to lift a leg, send it over. We're gonna go outward with this knee while we're trying to bring this heel up towards us. Now, if you've ever done like hacky sack playing, this is like you're trying to hit the hacky sack. All right, I can greatly use more external rotation here personally. That's what this is. We have now externally rotated the hip, trying to draw this ankle up. Next is putting the foot right underneath the knee. So what I just did there was I internally rotated at the hip. Now I'm going to use all this tissue at the hip flexor to try to drive that knee up higher without tucking my tailbone, without bending the standing leg. All right, so from a side view, it looks like this. All right, so I just scrunched up all that hip flexor stuff. Now I'm gonna open this door. All right, so that's going into external rotation of this hip. When it's time to open your door, go ahead and use a hand and guide it if you want, but careful not to take this other hip along for the ride. All right, it's possible that you can't open your door with your knee up so high, so you end up coming down here and you open your door. How about that? Doesn't that look nice? Very good. Now, this is where it gets tricky. With our open door, we are gonna turn this knee down and send it back behind us. All right, there's a point where it can no longer go back behind you anymore, and you actually then start to bring it towards this other knee, but notice it's still behind me a little bit. It's not here, it's back here. All right, so I was at the open door, I turn my knee down, I send it back, I'm falling over, and then I bring it back here. Okay, I'm gonna take a break, because this standing leg is getting a lot right now during this long teacher version. Okay, we're gonna go in reverse now. We're gonna pretend I didn't take a break and it's now time to go in reverse. Here we go. We landed here. Now, I'm going to send that ball in its socket back. All right, that's hip extension. And then from here, I'm gonna externally rotate at the hip. So that's opening this door again to bring it back to the open door. Very good. Now we're gonna close the door. We're gonna scrunch up that hip stuff again right there. We are going to go into the hacky sack. That's where the ankle tries to come up to you and your knee tries to go out. And then our final right here is we're gonna try to extend at the knee. Like you're on the leg extension machine at the gym. You're trying to do a leg extension with your leg up in the air. Let me show you from back here. Okay, all I'm gonna do right here is extend that leg extension. Now, as you go to extend your leg, it may lower down to the ground. That's okay. Legs are heavy. If we chopped off this leg and put it on the scale, it'd probably be half my body weight. It's a lot, okay? Especially trained up muscular legs. So just give yourself grace as you're trying to polish this ball with this heavy thing attached to it. All right, now we're gonna do the other leg. I'll be able to move through it a little faster because we did a lot of the coaching cues already. I'm gonna get my pitchfork. I'm going to stab it into the ground, create some stiffness here. I'm gonna shift my weight into that standing leg. I'm gonna send this one forward, squeeze that inner thigh stuff, and I'm gonna bend my knee, sending it out and bringing my ankle or my heel up towards my face. Ooh, losing my balance. Okay. Now I'm gonna put my foot right underneath my knee. Now I'm gonna flex all this right here. That's your hip flexor. Now I'm gonna open the door. Now watch what happens as I open the door. Notice the angle, so my knee's going down. All right, that's okay. Now we're gonna turn the knee down, send that ankle up towards the ceiling behind you, and I'm grazing across all the way back to where I can't go anymore, And then I'm going to internally rotate that hip to bring the knees together. Very good. Now I'm going to push back. It's like you're trying to push a button with your heel behind you. And then you're going to open that door. Then you're going to close your door. And then you're going to flex this stuff right here. And then you're going to hacky sack. That's that knee turns out and the foot or the heel or the ankle comes up. And then we're going to extend at the knee. Sometimes I get a pop right there. Whew. Okay, that's a hip car. Whew. Good job. This was a standing hip car. You can actually do this kneeling. You can do it so many different ways, and that'll come as you progress. Let's take a look at the knee rotations. So we're going down to the floor. I'm going to sit on my butt. I'm going to angle down. Now we have this tibial bone here, and this bone contributes to moving this knee right to left. It's not a lot. It's not a big movement. But here's how you can get started just getting some sort of connection to knee rotation. I want you to reach back behind the knee and above it to the right and to the left. And just depending on how built up you are or how much tissue you have, you may be able to discover this hamstring tendon and this hamstring tendon. There's one on the right and the left. And I want you to think about these being your reins, like a horse's reins that you get to pull on. All right, and go ahead and pull back on that outer one. And notice how it just kind of pulls all that tissue that way. And then pull back on the inner one. And it's real subtle, it's not a lot. But notice if you could just see all the skin and everything go that way. So right, left, right, left. All right, now these hamstrings have they're a big player in your knee rotation, along with the tibial bone. Okay, now I have my heel mashed into the carpet here, and I'm gonna imagine I'm putting out like a cigarette with it, so I'm giving it a little bit of push, and I'm gonna see if I can get, with the help of my tibial bone and my ankle going outward, if I could see that knee rotate. And I'm actually also pulling on this rein. Now I'm gonna go this way with it. I'm gonna go ahead and pull on the inner rein just as a guide. And I'm gonna swivel, I'm gonna put out that cigarette going this way. We don't get to go as far this way as we do this way, so don't force it, okay? Try to find it. And if I can be honest, it took me about 3 weeks to get this to move on its own, like my brain sending connections to this to now rotate my knee on its own. Now it looks like my ankle's rotating, but my ankle's actually pretty stiff. I'm actually rotating this thing, the tibial bone, okay? Even though it looks like my foot and my ankle is moving. All right, so let's try it on the other leg. Find your reins. So this is my left leg. I actually have a lot of excess tissue right here. I'm not sure what that's about. I've just been massaging it. It feels tender. It feels not the same, okay? But go ahead and pull on those reins, left and right. See if you can explore and get any movement out of that knee. All right, if you want to, bring in the tibial rotation. All right, here's another thing you can do. You can literally wrap your hands around your calf and your shin like sausage, and you can rotate it yourself. You can guide it into rotation until your brain picks up on how to do it all by itself without the hip turning in and out. Right? We are controlling, articulating, and rotating this. Not this, not this, this. All right, good job. The knee for me was the one of the most challenging, and I'm still working on it. Now let's take a look at the ankle. So now we're gonna look here at how we can move the ankle just like we did our wrist, okay? So if you want to, you can lock an arm underneath that knee. You can hold your hand on the knee, get comfortable here. You can stand up, you can prop your foot up on something. Explore it however you want to, but here's what we're gonna do. We are going to point our toes like our ballerina. You might even get a arch cramp. Point your toes. Now I want you to try to bring your big toe in. Ooh, did you see that? That was choppy. So we really want like a nice flow. We don't want to see this stuff, okay? Big toe comes in. Big toe comes up toward your face. Pinky toe goes out. Pinky toe goes down. Back to where you started. Now we take the pinky toe out. We raise it up. We come over to the big toe side. Big toe comes in. Big toe goes down. Put it back on straight. Excellent. That's an ankle car. All right, let's do the other side. Now, a lot of us, we have sprained ankles from childhood that we forget about, but they will show themselves here for sure. Point, big toe comes in, big toe comes up, pinky toe goes out, pinky side goes down. Now what you'll find happening is as you go back down, trying to lead from your pinky toe side, you'll feel your ankle rotate a little bit, and it kind of goes back to make it feel like your big toe is going down. But just keep your mind focused on that pinky side and trying to rotate down from that point over there, back down. And then we reverse. Pinky toe goes out, comes up, swoop it over to the other side where the big toe now gets to push down and back on straight. Very good. Okay, now we're going to take a look at our toes. We're almost done. I know it's a long video. Again, this is the long teacher version. These coaching cues are really helpful. If you just feel like you're not doing something right, you can fast forward to a certain part in the video and hear it again. All right, let's get these socks off so you can see what's going on here. All right, so we got all these toes, all 5 of them. We got littles and we got a big. Put your hand down on the littles and try to lift the big toe without lifting the littles. Try to lift it 3 times. 1, 2, 3. I'll be honest, I have no problems lifting my right big toe, but let's wait and see what happens on the left side. It was very interesting. Now we're gonna hold the big toe down and we're gonna try to lift only the littles without the big. 1, 2, 3, and then try to wave them down and bring them back up. And then you can go ahead and do it with all of them. Just a really great reminder that you have toes and their role in your movement practice. And let's be appreciative of our toes for a minute. Very good. All right, let's take a look at the other side. Holding the littles down, we're gonna try to raise the big one up. Oh, I'm doing better. Well, let me tell you, the first few weeks of doing the big toe lift, I couldn't even make my brain lift my left big toe. And it's still, it's like, come on, get up there. So you just wanna try to get 3 to maybe 5 lifts. Hold that down, try to get your pinkies to lift, or not your pinkies, your littles, without the big toe coming up. And then do some waving, just really connecting with all of they're called metatarsals. I don't have as much coordination over my left toes as I do my right. It's a little choppy, but you get the idea. Okay, our last car is going to be your cat-cow. Now you hear the cat-cow a lot in yoga. I'm gonna get something to put my hair up here. So our spine has this beautiful ability to wave and flex, and it rotates a little bit, but your main rotators are your neck and your hips. So between your neck and your hips, you've got this long spine, right? And when your neck and your hips can't rotate, and your shoulders a little bit, guess who's gonna try to rotate? Your spine. And that's how a lot of us end up with back problems, is because we're locked down in the neck and we're locked down in the hips. Now, this portion of your spine is meant to rotate. That's your thoracic. So it's like right here. And that's why we did that thoracic car. Remember that one? Okay. But now we're going to take a look at how the lumbar is to flex and extend. Now, our lumbar isn't meant to rotate a lot. It can nutate. That's another lesson. Well, our pelvis can nutate. But let's take a look at the cat-cow. We're going to look at the whole spinal vertebrae here. All right. So we set up with our wrists right underneath our shoulders as best as we can, and this is where a mirror or recording yourself will help. And we're going to try to keep our hip right over our knee. Your feet can be flat or your toes can be under you. You get to pick. I think this is a good setup. All right, here we go. So a cow, if you ever look into a pasture, actually has a sunken in back like this, right? And a cat, when they're all feisty, they're gonna be up here like this, right? So that's what we're looking for, but we're gonna control the vertebrae and we're gonna go very slow and we're gonna articulate and we're gonna try to find some neural drive to every single vertebrae. I am still working on this. I'm still challenged in this area. So what you see is not most efficient, but it's my best. All right, so this is neutral for me. And I'm gonna go ahead and think about my tailbone and the coccyx. The coccyx is way down there. And I'm gonna swoop that coccyx under. All right, so in my neural perception here, I'm about right here with my vertebrae. So I'm gonna keep tucking. And now I'm associating about right here with this vertebrae. You see what I'm doing here? And I'm gonna keep tucking. And I'm gonna keep driving my spine up towards the ceiling, not just to do it, but to really connect with every vertebrae that is now being flexed. This is a flexed spine, okay? When you're in this posture, you are flexing your spine. Now I'm about to go into extension of the spine. I'm gonna take that same coccyx and I'm gonna start tipping it up towards the ceiling. And I'm gonna really try to connect one vertebrae at a time, going into the cow. Now I'm going into what's called extension. We're extending the back. So if I were to do a back bend or a back extension machine in the gym, right, it takes you into like this posture right here, right? This is extension. This is flexion. Okay, now I'm going to move from my head this time instead of the tailbone. I'm going to go ahead and lift up my head. I'm going to send my shoulder blades together to connect with that upper spine. And then as you can see here, the tailbone was the last to lift up. All right, so this is your cat, cow, car. And then the last thing I want to teach you about the cat-cow is how muscles and tendons and ligaments, they pull on your bones. So if you're sorry, it got me a little head fancy going on here. Okay, so if you're going into flexion, what muscles do you think are putting you into this? Right? So if you are disconnected from any portion of your core, you will skip over some really good real estate, okay? You will actually jump over some of the vertebrae because you're not connected with some of this here. All right, so our core actually starts at our tongue. And then we've got these deep neck flexors that allow us to like go here, right? And then we've got more core that comes down through here. And then we really get into the core, which is, you know, the six pack, the rectus. We've got the transverse abdominals that come up off of the hips over here, and they come up in here and meet this. We've got the obliques. But if you're going into, let's say you got a lot of stuff like right here just really bothers you, well, let's really start addressing like that region at your belly button of your flexing, your core, real slow, really controlled. So then your brain says, oh, did you feel that? Did you feel that? I think we just woke something up that hasn't really gotten much thought to it in a while. And so that's where we get that term about these muscles have been put to sleep. It's not really that they're asleep. They're not tingling and numb, but they don't have neural drive to them. There's a black hole up here in the brain that would normally feed that. So the more we're able to build new neural drive signals and new neural pathways, our ability to do that is so important in evolving and really tapping into all of your strengths. Okay, I hope this car video was helpful. Long teacher version, fancy hair. I've gotten myself a little winded. I don't know if you've heard that in my breath. I'm just so glad that nobody's come except the dog once to interrupt this video. Can't tell you how many times I've had to stop and restart a video because of a phone call coming in or an alert or an animal literally not giving me space. So kudos if you've gotten this far in the video. If anything, it was probably great entertainment, but please do your cars daily. You can wake up and do cars at like a 20 or 30%, just kind of slow and easy waking up movement. You can then do your cars before a workout session that's more like 70%. You can do shoulder cars in between every chest press set if you wanted to. So maybe now instead of stretching, you're actually mobilizing any major tension that you created with your chest press. Now, you're not going to lose your strength by stretching. Keep that in mind. Like you just got that great pump on and you go to do a shoulder car and then you might feel like you just lost all your gains. No, you just gained more. You just accessed more tissue that you can then go and push. Make sense? So you can do your cars in between like your rest periods as long as they don't like kind of steal the neural drive that you need for the actual set, the actual, you know, so just be mindful of that. We only have so much capacity for a certain time. And if cars between your sets rob you of your capacity for the set, then maybe do your cars at a lower percentage or don't do your cars at all. That might just not be the best thing for you. I'd highly recommend after a long day of movement, maybe lots of squatting down, just maybe house cleaning, do your cars after that. Do your cars right before bed. Do your cars in the shower. Do your cars while you're brushing your teeth. Do your cars while you're pumping gas. You get the idea. Do your cars. Okay, so until next time, stay fit, have fun, and be healthy.